Many people believe that life after death is nothing more than a good plot for screenwriters. Those who think this way are convinced that there will be nothing for them after death. I hope that the story that happened to me on May 5th, 1995, will help some people change their minds. On that day, I experienced clinical death and saw what the afterlife looks like for a person who hates everything and everyone, recalls dentist Gloria Polo, who lives in Colombia. According to Gloria Polo, she would not have been able to return to life and share her story if not for her sister, who is also a doctor. Her sister insisted that Gloria should not be disconnected from life support equipment. The other doctors were convinced there was no way to save her. Gloria Polo's first return. On Friday, May 5, 1995, Gloria Polo and her nephew, who was also a dentist, were planning to visit the library of the National University of Colombia. They were accompanied by Gloria's husband. On their way, they were caught in a heavy downpour. Gloria opened an umbrella and walked under it with her nephew. Her husband sought shelter from the rain by walking along the wall of the university library.
At that moment, my nephew and I were walking through an alley lined with old trees. Ahead of us was a large puddle. As we tried to bypass it, lightning struck us. My nephew's life ended instantly.
Gloria Polo recalls. Gloria herself was in a state of clinical death. She remembered being surrounded by a beautiful light, as bright as the sun. Immersed in this light, Gloria realized that she had died. Floating within the light, she encountered her deceased relatives, her parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents. One of the most remarkable moments for Gloria was meeting her great-grandmother. Gloria had previously believed in reincarnation. She had once met a person who claimed to communicate with the other side and told her that her great-grandmother had reincarnated and that they were destined to meet in this life.
I blindly believed in reincarnation. Whenever I met new people, I would try to see my reincarnated great-grandmother in them. But now, surrounded by this white light, I realized how mistaken I had been. My great-grandmother, along with other deceased relatives, had come to greet me. Among them, I also saw my nephew, who had been struck by lightning with me. He entered a beautiful garden where the trees formed gates with their intertwined branches. I wanted to follow my nephew, but some force held me back.
Gloria recalls. At that moment, Gloria heard her husband's voice pleading with her not to give up because her children needed her. The garden with deceased relatives disappeared, and Gloria found herself near her body, surrounded by doctors. Soon after, Gloria felt herself being pulled back into her body. She described the sensation as trying to put on a child-sized outfit made of wire, causing her great physical pain. She heard one of the doctors announce with relief, "She's back." The most unbearable pain for me was my vanity. I was a woman who had succeeded in my profession, but was also a slave to beauty. Every day I spent 4 hours on aerobics, massages, and other treatments. My body was my idol, and I admired my figure, considering myself attractive. Now all of that was gone. My body was in terrible condition. The doctors transported me to the hospital and immediately began operating on me. During this time, I left my body for the second time. I was worried about my life, but more than anything, I was concerned about my body.
I understood these beings had come for me.
For a while, Gloria anxiously observed the events in the operating room. She thought about whether she could restore the beauty of her legs, which had suffered the most. Soon she noticed several figures standing near her. Initially, she thought they were doctors. But when she looked closely at their faces, fear overtook her, erasing all previous concerns.
The faces of these beings were terrifying, and their eyes glowed with hatred. Looking at them, I realized they had come for me. They surrounded me on all sides. I was very scared. I tried to get back into my body, but it wouldn't let me. My only salvation was to hide in the hospital corridor. But as I ran into the corridor, I found myself in a kind of tunnel.
Gloria says. Gloria descended through the tunnel. At first it was relatively bright, but the further she went, the darker it became. Finally, she felt a flat surface under her feet. It was dark all around, but Gloria could make out a large pit emanating an inhuman emptiness. Looking into this pit, Gloria understood that if she fell, her soul would be lost. As she stood near the abyss, the book of her life unfolded before her. Looking at it, Gloria realized that she had never truly loved anyone and had been a hypocritical person. For example, seeing a colleague in a new dress, she would smile and compliment her, while inwardly thinking, "You look awful in that dress," thinking you're a queen.
When I saw others suffering, I would say I sympathized, but I had no real compassion. Watching my life's book, I observed how my soul slowly withered and how my hatred for people grew. Eventually, the book of my life closed, and I felt an indescribable sadness. I thought I saw my late mother's eyes in the darkness. Tears streamed down my face as I realized I would never see my mother again.
Gloria says. Looking into her mother's eyes, Gloria began sinking into the darkness. She felt the darkness was filled with suffering and horror. She saw various creatures there that terrified her with their appearance. The darkness burned Gloria, and she felt as if she was losing her mind. Descending, she realized that the devil truly existed.
I was hanging over the abyss. Beneath me was that terrifying abyss filled with fear and despair, which I simply cannot describe in words. There wasn't even a glimmer of hope here. It became clear to me that if I fell into this pit, I would never escape. It was the spiritual death of my soul, and I was perishing irrevocably. In this moment of horror, I felt someone grab my leg. My entire body had already fallen into the darkness, but I was held by my feet. Hanging over the abyss, the faint light still flickering within my soul, enraged the creatures in the darkness. They rushed at me, trying to snuff out the last bit of light.
Gloria recalls that while hanging over the abyss, she began screaming, begging God to forgive her and bring her back. She cried out that she was there by mistake because she was Catholic and had been to church many times. But she immediately fell silent. Gloria realized that she had placed her faith in horoscopes above her religion. She believed that Mercury influenced her life more than anyone else. Thinking about this, she understood she had no right to ask for anything. Despite this, some force pulled her out of the pit. A voice told Gloria that she would be given a second chance.
This voice told me that I was saved, not because of my relatives' prayers, but thanks to the prayers of people I didn't even know. My story was written about in the newspapers, and people prayed for me. I saw many small lights in the darkness. These were the hearts of people sincerely wishing for my recovery. I saw a poor farmer who prayed for me, saying, "Lord, if you save this woman, I will go on a pilgrimage." I was touched by the fact that someone who was starving was praying for the salvation of a stranger. After this, I was returned to my body. The doctors, who had been fighting for my life for several days, said my recovery was impossible.
Gloria concludes her story. Subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching.